The metal box opens with a sound like a held breath finally released. Not a dramatic sound, a small one. The kind of sound that only matters if you know what's inside. And in the fluorescent half-light of the Fort Bragg administration building, at 5:47 in the morning, the man carrying the mop bucket does not look like someone whose name is carved into any wall. His name is Leonard Pruitt. He answers to Len. He is 61 years old, and he walks with a limp that tilts his whole left side slightly downward, the way an old house settles into its foundation over decades. His uniform is gray. His hair is the same color. He has a wedding ring on his right hand now because his left hand lost 2 fingers somewhere in a desert that doesn't appear on the maps civilians use. He keeps the ring on the right because it still fits there and because some habits are a form of prayer. He started his shift at 0500. He will finish at 1300. In the 8 hours between those numbers, he will clean 4 corridors, 2 officer latrines, the briefing anteroom, and the long hall outside the commander's suite. He brings his own coffee in a dented thermos. He drinks it cold. Nobody knows why he drinks it cold. This is a story about what people carry when they've decided the world doesn't need to know. Len pushes the mop bucket past the portrait wall, a long gallery of framed commanders going back to the 1960s, every face tilted at the same angle, every chest heavy with the same brass. He doesn't look at the portraits. He used to. He stopped some years ago, not out of bitterness, but because looking at them reminded him of men he knew whose faces weren't on any wall, and the grief of that was something he preferred to keep manageable before noon. The corridors smell like floor wax and old coffee and something institutional that has no precise name, but that every veteran recognizes immediately upon re-entering a military building. Len recognizes it. He breathes it in the way other people breathe morning air outside, without comment, without complaint, as simple orientation. He is wringing out the mop head near the East Corridor Junction when he hears the new general arrive. Brigadier General Hallett, 38 years old, fast-tracked, the kind of officer whose press biography uses words like visionary without irony. He came up through staff positions, Pentagon briefing rooms, 2 short deployments that generated 2 commendations that were described in official language as combat adjacent. His shoes make a specific sound on the freshly waxed floor. Deliberate, heel first, the sound of someone who has learned that presence is made with footsteps. He is surrounded by 3 aides who move like they're in his orbit. He stops when he sees Len. The stop is brief but total, the way a person stops when something mildly inconvenient appears in their path. A puddle, a slow car, a janitor with a mop blocking the main corridor to the commander's suite. You. The word drops flat. How long has this floor been wet? Len looks up. His face does a thing that people who don't know him might read as blankness. It is not blankness. About 10 minutes, General. Should be passable in 5. Hallett looks at the wet floor, then at Len, then at the mop bucket with the slight condescension of someone who has never cleaned anything in his life and has learned to feel philosophical about that fact. 5 minutes. He says it like a verdict. You know I have a briefing at 0600. Yes, sir. I can have a path clear on the right side in 2. A path. Hallett looks at his aides, then back at Len, the look calibrated to produce a small laugh, and it works. One of the aides makes a sound in his throat. You people have been cleaning this corridor since I was in school, and it still smells like a locker room. His eyes drop to Len's leg. The limp is visible when Len shifts his weight to wring the mop. Hallett watches it. What happened? Hurt yourself doing this? There is a silence. Not the silence of someone searching for words. The silence of someone deciding very precisely which ones to use. Old injury, sir. Must make the job harder. Another look at the aides. Or maybe easier. Something to lean on. The laugh this time is fuller, and it moves down the corridor like a stone skipping water. Len does not change his expression. He nods once and begins clearing the right side of the corridor with steady, unhurried strokes. The general and his orbit pass through. Their footsteps recede. The corridor goes quiet again. Len keeps mopping. This is the part of the story where most people would expect anger. A jaw clenched, a mop handle gripped too hard, some internal monologue of dignified outrage. But what Len Pruitt does is finish the right side of the corridor, then the left, then check the wax is setting properly near the baseboard by the water fountain, because the wax always bubbles there, and if you don't press it down, it peels by afternoon. He checks it. He presses it down with the heel of his boot. Then he drinks his cold coffee. There is something underneath the stillness, though. Something a person would notice if they knew what to look for. A slight adjustment in how he holds the mop handle, up near the top where the grip is firmest. The way a man holds something familiar when he needs a moment to remember who he is. He remembers. A sergeant first class named Wanda Torres comes through the corridor at 06:15 with a stack of folders and the expression of a person running 12 minutes late for something 17 minutes away. She slows when she sees Len. "Morning, Len." "Morning, Wanda." "You hear the new general's already rearranging the briefing schedule? Man's been here 48 hours. "I heard." She studies him for a moment. Wanda Torres has worked on this base for 11 years. She has seen Len Pruitt every morning for 9 of them. She knows his coffee preference, his route, the name of his late wife whose photograph is on his thermos cap. She also knows a few other things about him that she has never said aloud, because it isn't her information to share. She shifts her folders. Her eyes move to the east corridor where the general's footsteps have long since faded. "You good?" "Fine." She nods, knowing that with Len, fine is not a deflection. With Len, fine is a complete answer. She moves on. He finishes the corridor by 700. By 7:30, he is in the briefing anteroom, where General Hallett's morning session ran over, and the staff are filing out in that particular way of people who have survived a long meeting. Slightly dazed, slightly relieved. Len moves along the back wall with a cloth cleaning the whiteboard rail. He is nearly invisible here, which is what he has been for 9 years, which suits him entirely. And then the general's voice rises from inside the briefing room, door open, carrying the specific volume of a man who doesn't lower his voice because he has never needed to. "The building manager about facilities. I want that corridor crew working before 5, not at 5. And get me the personnel file on the janitors. If any of them have a reason for working slow, I want to know now or not at all." A pause. One of the aides' voices, quieter. "Yes, sir. The one in the east corridor. He has, I believe, a medical notation. Old service injury." "Service?" Hallett's tone is somewhere between skeptical and dismissive. "What branch?" A longer pause. "It says Army, sir. Nothing more in the active file." Nothing more in the active file. Len hears this through the open door. His cloth moves along the whiteboard rail in the same rhythm as before. His breathing doesn't change, but his eyes, for just a moment, find the corner of the room, a specific corner, the way a person's eyes find a specific corner when they are putting something very large somewhere it will fit. Because there is a briefing scheduled that afternoon, a joint ceremony, a Medal of Honor presentation to the family of a soldier killed in action, because sometimes the medal arrives late, because sometimes the paperwork follows the body by years. And General Hallett will be presiding. This is the part where you might feel the shape of what's coming, the way you feel the shape of a wave before it breaks. Not the crash, not yet, but the gathering of water, the draw. The ceremony convenes at 1400 in the base's formal assembly hall, the one with the flags ranked along both walls and the photographs of recipients going back to the Second World War. Len is not supposed to be there. His shift ends at 1300 and the hall is not on his route. But the hall had a plumbing issue 2 days prior, and the maintenance supervisor asked Len specifically to check the back wall access panel at 1345 before the ceremony began to make sure the pressure had stabilized. He is there, in other words, by accident, or by whatever the opposite of accident is, when it is so much smaller and quieter than the word fate implies. He checks the panel. The pressure is fine. He closes the panel and stays low near the back wall, intending to leave before the assembly begins. He doesn't leave. The hall fills. Officers in dress uniform, enlisted, civilian staff, the family of the fallen soldier, a mother, two siblings, a small girl who is someone's daughter, holding a flag with both hands like she's been told not to let go. Their grief is visible in the way they hold their bodies, upright but at tremendous cost. The way people hold themselves when falling apart is not an option they've been given. General Hallett enters last, as generals do. He takes his position at the podium. His uniform is immaculate. His voice, when he speaks, carries the formal cadence of ceremony. Slower than his hallway voice, heavier, every word landing with the deliberate weight of a man who understands that this occasion is above him but is performing competently within it. He reads the citation. He reads it well. Len listens from the back wall. And then something happens. One of the civilian guests, a man in his 70s, broad through the shoulders, moving with the careful economy of someone whose body has been recalibrated by injury, wearing a dark suit that cannot hide the posture beneath it, comes through the side entrance 5 minutes late. He is looking for a seat. His eyes scan the hall and find Len Pruitt against the back wall. He stops. His face does something enormous and silent. He crosses the hall, ignoring the row of empty seats near the door, and comes directly to the back wall. He stands beside Len. He says nothing for a moment. Then, low, barely audible, in the register of someone speaking a language only 2 people in the room know. Ghost. 1 word. Len closes his eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When he opens them, he turns to look at the man, and something in his face has shifted. Not broken open, not performed, just slightly, irreversibly rearranged. Carver. Master Sergeant James Carver, retired, reaches out and grips Len's forearm with one hand and says nothing more. 2 men in the back of a formal hall, holding that grip for 3 seconds, in the way soldiers hold things they survived together, briefly, tightly, without theater. The ceremony continues. The medal is presented. The mother receives it in both hands, and her face does what faces do when something that cannot be enough is given anyway, when the country hands you a piece of metal, and inside it is your child. The hall is quiet with the specific weight of military grief, which is its own country. General Hallett steps back from the podium. He looks toward the family. And then, perhaps because he is scanning the room with the instinct of a man who monitors how he is being perceived, his eyes move along the back wall and find Len Pruitt. He looks. There is something in his face that wants to dismiss what he sees and cannot quite do it, because the man standing next to the janitor is holding himself in a way that reads, even across a formal hall, even in a dark civilian suit, as someone whose bearing was built somewhere serious. After the ceremony, in the anteroom where guests collect before dispersing, Carver finds a base administrator and speaks quietly. The administrator goes white in a way that is almost comical, then moves with purpose toward General Hallett's aide. There is a brief exchange. The aide's face also changes. He approaches the general. Len is in the corner of the anteroom with his thermos, preparing to leave. Hallett crosses the room. Len sees him coming and does not move. The general stops in front of him. His voice, for the first time since he arrived on base, is not performing anything. I was told... He pauses. He has the look of a man recalibrating mid-sentence. I was given some information about your service record. Len waits. The name Pruitt. Leonard Pruitt. Hallett's jaw moves. The Kunar Province citation, that was you. Len's hand adjusts around the thermos. That's all. I didn't have access to full jackets for facilities personnel. I should have... Hallett stops again. He is not a coward, and he is not, in this moment, hiding from what he said in the corridor. He is, perhaps for the first time in a long time, genuinely unsure of the right words. The comment I made this morning, about your leg, that was wrong. Sir, I need to say it plainly. Hallett's voice drops further. You were awarded the Medal of Honor for an action in 2004 in which you took fire for 11 hours to hold a position so that 14 men could be extracted, and you lost the use of 2 fingers and partial mobility in your left knee, and the after-action report. He stops. His voice has taken on something that isn't scripted. The after-action report said your call sign was Ghost because nobody ever knew you were there until it was already done. Is that accurate? Carver, standing 3 feet away with a cup of coffee he has stopped pretending to drink, answers before Len can. Accurate doesn't cover it, General. The anteroom has gone quiet, the way rooms go quiet when something true is happening inside them. The 3 aides are present. The administrator is present. 2 senior NCOs who heard Hallett in the corridor that morning are present. Nobody is looking away. Len sets his thermos down on the side table. He stands. He has always been standing, but he stands differently now. Not taller, not performed, simply entirely himself, the way a landscape looks different when the light shifts. He looks at the general without hostility and without deference, the look of a man who has been looked at correctly and incorrectly so many times that the difference has stopped requiring a reaction. My leg slows me down on the stairs, not on the corridors. A brief pause. I clean good corridors, General. It is not defiance. It is the most accurate sentence he has spoken all day. Hallett looks at him for a long time. Then he does something that will be reported differently by every person in that room, depending on what they each needed to see. He takes 1 step back. He brings his heels together. And he gives Leonard Pruitt a full, formal salute, the kind held until it is returned, the kind that has no irony in it, the kind that costs something. Len looks at it. His right hand comes up. His 2 remaining fingers on his left hand close against his thigh. He returns it. The 2 NCOs in the corner come to attention without anyone telling them to. It is not a performance. It is the body's response to something it recognizes. Carver puts down his coffee. His jaw is working in the way of a man who is not going to cry in this room, but whose eyes are doing something he cannot fully control. The small girl who received the flag is standing in the doorway with her mother, watching. She doesn't understand the salute, but she understands something, the way children understand things that are real before they understand why. She holds the folded flag a little closer. Len lowers his hand. He picks up his thermos. He nods once at Carver with the specific nod of men who will see each other again somewhere quieter, where they can say all the things rooms like this don't make space for. He walks toward the door with his uneven gait, the left side dropping slightly, the way an old house settles, the way something built for endurance settles, not broken, just accustomed to its own weight. At the door, he pauses. He doesn't turn around, but his hand finds the door frame for 1 moment, 1 breath, and then he is through it. The corridor outside is freshly waxed. It shines under the fluorescent light the way it always does at this hour, the way Len has made it shine every morning for 9 years, the way it will shine tomorrow morning at 0500 when he comes back with his bucket and his